Right, ji. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Today we are uh, covering determined budget. It is in continuation in the project or chapter of chapter 7 of that is cost management, project cost management. We have already covered the plan cost management, and then we covered estimate cost. And even between these two topics, we also talked about the cost benefit analysis and all the various tools. We covered that yesterday, and that was again a very important tool because you may be getting some questions from that in the PMP exam. Today we will be doing that determined budget process, control cost process, and lastly, in the control cost process, we'll talk about earned value management, which will take some time. So, a determined budget is simple. In this, whatever estimates we have created, we will give those estimates to the people who are determining the budget, and they will assess that, they will aggregate that, and they will ultimately validate whether these estimates are right or wrong. If they have any objection, we have to remove that, or maybe you know we can convince them that their estimates might not be you know near to the truth. So both ways, both parties, the person who is giving the budget and person who has calculated the estimates, both have to convince each other for whatever reasons. But ultimately, we need to have a determination of budget for not only the whole project but each and every activity, each and every work package. Because if we do that, only then we will be able to establish an authorized cost baseline, which will then be followed during the execution or control. The key benefit of this process is that it determines the cost baseline against which the project performance can be monitored and controlled. So we cannot monitor the performance of the cost or the performance of the project from the cost perspective if we do not determine, we do not allocate the budget down to the activity level. That is exactly why I was saying that this is important to allocate budget down to the activity level. The process itself, naturally, cost management plan will be required. The scope baseline, which includes the scope statement, will be required. Uh, Cost estimates and the basis of estimate we created in the previous process. I mean, when we were estimating the cost, there we have established the activity cost estimates and basis for those estimates. These two are input here into the determined budget process. We also have the project schedule. Now you see, in the time management chapter, the very last process in planning was develop schedule. So this project schedule is coming from there and it is entering here as an input. Therefore, we must understand that schedule is an important input into determining the budget because the budget has to be allocated according to the time frame, and we'll talk about that. Then we also have the resource calendars available to us, risk register. So far, how many risks and which risks have been identified, that is also available. And if we have got any the contract or the agreement, that would also be input into it. We have the organization process assets. Now the tools are comparatively simpler. The responsibility of budget is to check if the estimates are correct. And the very first check would be to sum up all the estimates and find out the total if the aggregation comes out to be the same. The second important check is to do the reserve analysis. Naturally, estimate cost has already done its own reserve analysis, and they have proposed whatever quantity of reserve they want to take keep in each process. Budget determined budget process will also do its own reserve analysis and see if the reserves asked by the estimator were correct or not, and if they have any objection, that will have to be renegotiated. Naturally, expert judgment will be used here, and if there is any historical relationship, that would also come into play. But the most important thing coming out, process being done, the tool being used here is funding limit reconciliation. That is not that is important next to the budget itself, the cost baseline itself, because funding limit reconciliation tells us how much funds will be released at what time in the life of the project. You see, this is exactly why we needed the project schedule to be input into this process, because we have to determine at what point in the schedule should we be allocating what amount of money. So funding limit reconciliation will do that, and as output we will get the cost baseline, which is the budgeted amount for each activity and the total project. Funding requirements, project funding requirements come out of the funding limit reconciliation. What you have, once you have reconciled how much money is to be allocated or issued or released to the project at what point in time, that becomes the project funding requirement, and ultimately project documents will get updated accordingly. So here we see that a lot many things are getting into the process of determined budget. Naturally, from estimate cost, we are getting cost estimates and basis of estimate. From plan cost management, we are getting the cost management plan. From create WBS, we have got the scope baseline. Develop schedule is giving us a schedule. Acquire project team is giving us the resource calendars. Identify risk, naturally the risk register is being provided. Resource calendars are also being provided from the conduct procurements, and if there are any contracts or subcontracts we have given to our subcontractors, our vendors, our sellers, that would also be required to determine the budget, and ultimately the organizational process assets. So there is a number, the long list of these inputs: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10. There are 10 inputs into this. Now what does come out of it? There are three things coming out. One is the project document update, which is updated into the project documents. Cost baseline is being updated to the project management plan, and funding requirement is sent to the control cost process, as if it can ensure that funding is being utilized as per the plan. And this is the baseline shape of the funding, how the funding should be released. The project budget includes all the funds authorized to execute the project. For the cost baseline is the final approved version of the time phase project budget. Meaning what? That we know at what point in time we need what amount of money. Naturally, everything, every resource will be mobilized based on the money available. Therefore, as per the schedule, as per the requirement of the work, the cost baseline will be established, and that would tell us how much money is required at what point in time. And I was just as I was just explaining funding limit reconciliation, that will tell us how much money would be released to the project at one point in time. So there are two different things: how much money is required and how much money is released. So the release of the money could be in chunks, in installments, whereas the requirement could be constant in nature. So what it can do is, it can give us a mobilization advance in the very beginning of the project, which can make us survive for next, say, 1 or 2 months. So all the needs of next 1 or 2 months would be fulfilled by the first installment, and by the time we have used up that money, the next installment will come in, and it will again survive us for another some period of time. That's how the funding limit reconciliation works. And during this cost baseline, the reserves are included in that. Therefore, we have calculated the reserves, and the budget itself. The budget itself does not include the management reserves. I'll show you how many reserves are there, what types of reserves are there. I'll just show you. Okay. Now, if you can see this diagram, this is a diagram of the cost baseline. Now, you have to listen to me very carefully. We have the cost estimate for every activity, And once we estimated that cost in the previous process of estimate costs, we have actually done it bottom up, meaning we have gone down to the level of activity, calculated the resources and everything for every activity, and uh, assigned the estimate, developed an estimate for each and every activity, which included all the costs of resources and everything. For every activity, we also catered for certain reserve, and that could be different from activity to activity. It is not some kind of a percentage fixed for these reserves, which is actually not really fair. If I say 10% of reserve will be kept, that may not be required for certain activities, and maybe there are certain activities which will require, like, something like 100% reserve. So in that case, we will have to determine what is the requirement of each activity, how sensitive that activity is, and how much reserves are required. So this is also estimated during the activity cost estimates. So these estimates along with their reserves are available. If you remember, we had a unit which is called work package, which consisted of a number of activities. A work package was the lowest level of the WBS. So that means the activities make up to develop a work package. So the estimate for all the activities in our work package plus their respective reserves will add up to the total cost estimate for that work package, for that one work package. So work package cost estimate would be the sum of all the activity cost estimates and their reserves. For every work package, we may even have a contingency reserve on top of that. A number of work packages could be contained in a control account. So work packages included in the control account along with their contingency reserve add up to form the control account. Let me give you an example. Maybe in the construction of a wall, plastering the wall is an activity. So all the activities, if construction of wall is a work package, then plastering the wall, making, doing other jobs on the wall, all the different activities on the wall, these could be my activities. I may have kept certain reserve for each activity, which could be different from each other. But summing up all the activities and their reserves in construction of a wall would be my work package. This work package could be part of a control account. Maybe my house I'm constructing has 10 rooms and each room is considered as a control account. And the supervisor who is overseeing the construction of this house is responsible for, maybe he is responsible for one room. So if he is responsible for one room, I will call him the control account manager, and all the work packages in that room would be, under his responsibility. Therefore, the cost estimate of all the work packages in this room and their reserves would be the control account, the sum of the control account. This control account, the budget allocated for this control account would be this much. But because control accounts are only used for accounting purposes and there is no need for keeping any reserves in accounting. Therefore, just sum up all the control accounts, meaning all the rooms of the building, and that would be the whole house. That would come out to be the cost baseline which we have just calculated. It is sum of the bottom of sum of aggregation of all the activities. On top of the cost baseline, management does keep some percentage reserve. That is called the management reserve. It is not included in the cost baseline, but when we calculate the project budget, that would be cost baseline plus that management reserve. So if somebody says project budget, you must understand that this includes the management reserve. So just tell me if you are clear about it.
Yes, sir, it's so far clear.
Okay. If it is okay with you?
Yes, sir. It's okay, sir.
Okay, fine. So if this is clear, this was important to understand that there are activity contingency reserves, there are contingency reserves, there are management reserves. And while we were estimating the cost, we also used PERT, program evaluation and review technique, in which you remember we used 3-point estimate. 3-point estimate also caters for unknown risks. So that is also a kind of a reserve built into the estimate of each activity. So these are four kinds of, protection, four levels of protections I have built into my project, and there could be more. So if this much of protection is built into my project, then probably if I can manage the whole project with some sanity, we will never be able to, overspend or delay the project. But naturally, this is not the case. We know that projects do get delayed, projects do overspend. So we have to see how and why to control it. So in this diagram of cost baseline, the the line, the dark curved line shown right from the bottom to the top is like a S curve, like a S. This dark black line, like a S, is called S curve or cost baseline. This is drawn on a scale of time and cumulative values. Cumulative value mean money, the cost, the cumulative value of money. So that means if I can point this um, pointer to this point means that up to this time, how much money should be spent? This much money should have been spent according to my budget. I mean, according to my cost baseline, doing this much job, I should be spending this much money. And therefore, every point on this cost baseline speaks how much work has to be completed till then and how much money should have been spent at that point in time. So this I have estimated already in planning. This S curve has been formed at the end of cost estimation and budgeting, and therefore this is the complete picture how the project is going to progress as far as the money is concerned, and the topmost point is the total budget of the project because it is cumulative. So all the money which I have spent so far is at this point is the total money, the total budget of the project. This point is also called budget at completion, BAC, budget at completion. And any point on this curve is considered present value. Sorry, not the present value, planned value. So if I point my dot here, that means the planned value at this point, because I had planned it in the planning. So it was my plan to spend this much money till this point. So this much work must be done in this much money. This I had determined in my budget, in my plan, that we should not be spending more than this money to do this much job. So every dot on this S curve is my PV of that day. You can look at the time here, and you can look at the cumulative value of money, and you can determine how much time, how much money should have been spent. Now look at the dotted stairs line. You can see this dotted stair line. What is this? This is basically the funding requirement. The first level is the kind of mobilization advance which have been provided to your project to start your work. And because in the initial stages of the project you spend money slowly, therefore this money would go a long way. because the curve is not very steep in the beginning. So it will go a long way, maybe for 1 or 2 or 3 months. And by this time, this money should have been spent and this much work should have been achieved. At that point in time, from the funding requirement, you will get the next installment of money, which should be enough for you to reach this point, which is this point in time. So, how much money should have been spent by now? This much. Then another installment till this point, another installment till the completion of the project. This is the completion point of your project. But at that point, if there is a problem, if you are getting delayed or if you are overspending, your actual line, your actual expenditure will differ. The dotted curved line, the dotted S curve shows your actual expenditure on ground. And you see what it represents, the starting point represents that it did not start on the day assigned, but it started maybe a month later. So project started working or started producing the deliverables a month later. And at that point, it did not spend any money because nothing was done. So now I want to catch up the time which is lost, and therefore I have to move faster. I have somehow to put in some effort to bring this curve, this dotted curve, in alignment with the hard line curve. So we are continuously trying to bring it up and reach it a level where it coincides with the cost baseline. But naturally, if there is a problem, you may be delayed in the project. How much are you being delayed? This was the total time required for the project, but you might be delayed by this much time. And how much more money are you spending? You are actually spending this much more money. So your S curve will finish. This point is my estimate at completion. And this is my estimate at completion. I'll talk more about these different kinds of things, but basically you see that the cost baseline which we had planned and the funding requirement which we had planned in the cost baseline in the determined budget process is not exactly going to be true on ground. When we will actually execute the project, the things may appear slightly different, and continuously we will keep trying to bring the project back on track. So we will put in that effort, and ultimately our project will try to be aligned with the baseline. But naturally, that might not be possible. That may cause a little extra time, a little extra money at the end to end the project. So I hope you understand this graph.
Yes, sir, it's understandable. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let me move on to the control cost process. And here we talk about the various tools which I refer to as the earned value management. And then the things will be much more interesting. Okay, you see, uh, as far as inputs are concerned, we are not much, it is not a strange thing to do. You see, we have the project management plan, that is all right in control. We do need to have a project management plan because the cost management plan is included in the control management plan, project management plan, and cost from cost management plan, we will compare what the work performance data coming from execution. Number three is work performance data. We are going to compare it to the plan and see where we stand. And we'll also compare it with the funding requirements. Are the funding being released as per schedule? Is there any problem? Maybe we need more funding due to the changing environment. So is there any room for that? And then we also need the enterprise organizational process as it, because enterprise and factors have no role to play here. Now these tools are important, and I'll describe each one of these tools in a while, but the names are earned value management. This is a wonderful tool. This is going to help us measure the cost as well as schedule and align them together. Forecasting is a process in which we try to forecast the future of the project. How much more money is going to be spent on the project? What is the amount in which the project will now expected to complete? So we'll do that in forecasting. And there is yet another term. It means to complete performance index, which means that how much more effort is required to complete the project. This is a kind of an index we'll calculate. We will conduct the performance reviews, and the work performance data which we received as an input would go through the performance review after comparing it with the cost management plan, which is included in project management plan, ultimately yielding the work performance information. And if you remember, work performance information from this process and all other controls, they all go to one place, and that is monitor and control project work, which is responsible for putting all the work performance information together into a work performance report. Moreover, we have forecasted, so cost forecast will come out. If there is something wrong with scope, time, or cost, then the cost change, any change requests regarding the cost would be moved. And where do all the change requests go? They all go to integrated change control. And naturally, we have project management plan updated accordingly, project documents updated, and the organizational process assets updated as a result of this process. So you see, we had project management plan coming in, we had funding requirements coming from determined budget, we had work performance data, we had organizational process assets coming in, and at last getting updated back into the organization. The project document updates are updated in the project document archive, and work performance information, as you already know, all the work performance information goes to monitor and control project work. From schedule and from cost, there is yet another thing which goes to monitor and control project work. Schedule sends the schedule forecast and cost sends the cost forecast. So beside work performance information, cost forecasts are also being sent to monitor and control project work. And ultimately, if there is a need for any change that, due to the cost, then those change requests are also moved. And you remember, all the change requests go to perform integrated change control. So this is where it is going to land up. Right. Let me move on to these are various processes. Yes. Right. I want to start with earned value, the most important tool here. Okay. Do you have any idea what the earned value is? Based on what we have discussed earlier, or I just mentioned its name in schedule also. So what is your opinion this earned value is?
Value the project that have received so far.
Okay, the
From
value
get
of
up
the
to the
project which it has achieved so far. Right. Okay. So what is so special about earned value? We mentioned something like the schedule performance and the cost performance both are measured in the same by the same tool, earned value management. What is the benefit of that? Why are we doing that?
we are trying to see how the project has performed.
Right. But you see, generally speaking, when there is a project running, we are more concerned about the performance of time, and we normally do not bother much about the cost. Although I do agree that when the budgets are being allocated, we are only concerned about cost because we want the budget to remain low. But once the budget has been allocated, we assume that the budget which has been allocated would be spent. Therefore, we don't bother much about how much money is being spent, but we are more concerned about doing the project in right time. So because all the attention of project manager is on controlling the schedule, and schedule is naturally a very sensitive thing, it is going to be affected, and may projects usually get delayed, maybe because of some kosher reasons and sometimes without them, but projects do get delayed. According to Gartner study, 80 to 90% projects are delayed, and maybe most of them are due to overcost also. But you see, there is a tendency that things will get delayed. So all the intention of project manager is to control no slippage as far as the time is concerned. That project manager, because most of his attention is on the schedule, he would like to put all his resources and energies into controlling the time, no matter if he is actually spending more money, which he does not realize at that point in time. So he may prove that the activities are being done well in time, are less than in less time, but we are not taking into account how much money had to be spent and how much money actually gets spent. So usually more money gets spent because it is within the budget. We are not really bothering about it, but we must, because we have a funding limit reconciliation. We have a funding requirement, the staircase. So if we are supposed to be paying more than what is as per the schedule, then probably we are at loss, and we need to, at that sensitive point, we have to seek permission to give more money to maybe seller or vendor or whomsoever is claiming that money. So we may be spending more money. We may move a change request, and which allows us to spend more money or whatever we do. But when money is being spent, we are not that careful. So most of our concern is about the time. At the end of the day, when the project gets completed, and let us assume that project gets completed within the prescribed time, we feel very happy because that was the single and lonely objective of the project manager to achieve. If he has done the project in time, we assume and we think that this is a well done job. Whereas later on, when somebody checks the accounts, the cost spending, we find out that maybe we have spent 3 to 10 times more money than was required. And we have been moving change requests for spending more money, and they all had been approved. But why did we not consider doing the job a little slower and saving that money? Why is money being spent more and time is being tracked? Why are all our attentions are on saving time and not money? So rather than getting to know that you have spent much more money at the end of the project or after the end of the project, it would be wise to somehow develop a mechanism by which we understand, we would know how much money has been spent so far, how much money had to be spent so far, and how much work we have achieved, how much work was to be done, and how much work has actually been achieved. So, whatever money we have spent so far is on the work we have achieved, the earned value. Therefore, if we have spent anything more than what was required to be spent, that means we are overspending by this much amount. So if we know how much are we overspending at any point in time during the life of the project, we probably can control it. So there should be one single measurement mechanism which would not only have an eye on the cost, but also on the schedule. So both of these things, schedule and cost, are to be monitored and controlled through a single tool, and that is together. If you remember, when we were studying control schedule, we did mention some of the terminologies like schedule variance, schedule performance index. So basically, this schedule variance, schedule performance index, this is all due to the earned value management system. I am not saying that earned value is mandatory method for every project. Rather, I would say people who are practicing project management are some of them even do not know what earned value really means. And if at all some organization wants to introduce its employees on what this earned value management is, maybe they are using earned value management system, but at the same time they don't know, they don't understand what is it really doing. But what I am going to teach you is going to explain to you each and every detail in complete, to the comfort of your mind. So in earned value is how much have we attained so far. It is just like you are paid for the work you have done. If you have done that job, you can claim the payment, right? So why I do claim the payment? Because I have earned it, because I have fulfilled my promise. What I committed, I have actually made it according to that, and therefore now I am to be paid. I have earned the value. Similarly, in case of the project manager, when he did estimates, he made certain tall claims that I will be able to do according to the S curve. I will be able to do this much job in this much money at that point in time. So the planned value point on the S curve shows us where we should be at that time, how much money we should have spent according to the budget. And actually we could not achieve that much job. We were short of the target as far as the schedule is concerned. So that would mean that we have earned less than what was supposed to be earned. Maybe there were 3 activities to be completed by the end of first progress report. We could hardly do 2 activities. So the earned value would be the sum of the budget of first 2 activities only. Whereas the planned value which was planned earlier, was that the 3 activities had to be completed by that time. So the budgeted value of all the 3 activities is called the planned value. So whatever if we point at a planned value point at any time in the cost baseline, if I point to any point on S curve, at that point, that much money was supposed to be spent. But meaning what? All the activities which were supposed to be completed by that point, their budget is to be added up, and that would give me the planned value of that point. Now, on reaching that point, how much work we have actually done. So if we did not complete all the work, then whatever we have completed, the sum of the budgetary value of all those activities which we have actually on ground completed, that sum would be called as earned value. Are you with me?
Yes, sir. But I have a question over here.
Yeah.
Who will decide the completion? Who will decide the completion? Because in my case, most of the time it's happened that when someone claim that we have completed an activity, we usually send supervisor there to have a look at it, and they come up with a report that this amount has been completed.
Okay.
Control.
Every task has to be completed based on the deliverable it is to produce. And every deliverable has a acceptance criteria which we must establish in planning. Until and unless that item is passed through the user acceptance testing, that is never declared complete. And if that deliverable is not complete, that task is not complete.
Okay.
So as soon as that deliverable of that activity is accepted by the user acceptance testing or whatever, that at that time we can claim that we have earned the value for that. Got it?
Yes, 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 got it.
Right. Let us see various terminologies. I just explained to you what is planned value. On the S curve, that was the hard black line, curved line, S curve, which we designed and established in the budget cost process. In that process, we created this baseline, and this baseline is a hard line, this is a fixed line, and this was baseline. This is the cost baseline, and on the cost baseline, every point could be a planned value of that point. And the highest point is called what?
BAC.
What? Highest point on that S curve.
That was BAC.
That was
BAC, sir. The
BAC.
highest
Yes,
point.
you are right. That was the total budget of the project. That is
Yes.
budget at completion. BAC, budget at completion. So if I say that the PV of the last day of the project, planned PV of the last day of the project is the BAC, then it is not wrong. But PV could be any point on that S curve. Now, if I was supposed to achieve 3 activities by the end of one progress report and I achieved only 2, then my earned value would be more or less
Less, sir. Less than the
Less.
PV.
less. So that would be equal to what? The sum of the budgeted sum of the first 2 activities.
Okay.
For example, first activity was $1,000, second activity was $2,000, third activity was $1,500. We completed first 2 activities. So we our earned value at this point is 3,000 rupees.
Got it.
And what should have been what should have been the planned value?
35.
3,500.
4,500. That is 1,000 plus 2,000 plus 1,500. So we were supposed to do 3
Okay,
jobs.
45.
4,500 is my PV, and but I could only achieve how much? 3,000. So how much behind I am from the scheduled target?
1,500, sir.
1,500.
1,500. So you see, now you are telling me the progress in rupees.
1,500.
$1,500 or rupees. This is the progress. We are behind by 1,500 in progress. In the progress of the schedule, we are behind the schedule by $1,500. So I don't need to say that I am 10% behind or ahead, or I have done this much job. So we don't have to do all those gimmicks. We simply can tell you in terms of money how much are we behind or ahead of the schedule. For example, if we had completed all the three tasks by that point, rather we did a fourth job as well, which was not supposed to be done, which was the target of the next progress report. So, and that costed the planned value for that specific activity was 1,000 rupees. So my earned value would have been how much?
1,000 because you have completed 1,000.
1,000 plus. This is only the
Previous
fourth activity. 1,000 is only the fourth activity. I was supposed to do 3 activities. They were worth 4,500, and I did one job extra. So add that 1,000 into this amount.
that is 45 plus 100, 55 now.
5,500 will be my earned value, and I am ahead of schedule by 1,000.
Okay. Oh. But sir, I have a question over here. Then this is the standard of the project management or the PMBOK that it is calculated in terms of money.
Yep.
If some company or the organization have something else like the deliverable that have been achieved so far, or any project that is not cannot be exactly associated with the money,
no matter.
This is just a benefit that is related. Will that so it means it differs actually?
You see, that does not matter at all.
Okay.
How can an activity not be measured in money? Are you not spending money on activities?
We are spending, but the company doesn't feel like they are looking for the money. They are
Right.
looking for the deliverable or the benefit. Like NGOs or not-for-profit companies working around.
So what? So what? Do the not-for-profit companies not spend money?
They do.
Yes.
They do. But most
That's
of them they're
exactly my
looking for
point.
the.
We are just measuring work progress in terms of money. That's all. This is not the matter of profit or loss. They do spend money. They don't they have account section? Don't they do have the finance section? If they don't bother about money, why do they have a finance section? Why do they have a account section? Why do they have funding coming in and money going out? So money does matter, although their target is not to make profit. That is the only difference. Even for non-for-profit, NGOs, even the government projects, all of them can be measured with this money.
Sir?
Okay, why are we trying to measure things in money? Let me clarify that. First of all, we want to measure these two things, time and cost, together in the same unit. You understand that point? Okay, let us see how do we measure work in normal exercise, in normal projects. How do you measure the progress of activities? If you are not using earned value, how do you measure it?
Most of the time, the end product of every phase.
Most of the time?
Like end product of every phase, like in form of constructing a houses. If you are constructing 54 houses, most of the time the boss usually asks, have you reached the front elevation in progress, or the basic structure is there or not? They usually don't ask for money actually. They really don't concern sometimes about the money during the project. They just concern about the completion of the project.
Even if they are talking about the deliverables, they are talking about money. They don't want to call it money, but they are talking about money.
Sir, can I, get into this discussion?
Yeah.
Sir, there are two yardsticks to measure a project, in my opinion, because I missed the previous part in which you established the cost element of a project. Since I've been listening to it after I came back, there are two yardsticks: activity-based time measurement के एक एक्टिविटी में इतने मैन आवर्स लगने थे और इतने लग चुके, और वो एक्टिविटी जो कंप्लीट होती है उसके मैन आवर्स क्लॉक कर दिए जाते हैं कि अच्छा यार ये 200 मैन आवर्स वाला काम हो चुका है, जो एक्टिविटी कंप्लीट हो गई, तो उसको आप यू मेजर इट ऑन अ स्केल ऑफ टाइम ऑफ मैन आवर्स, और जो साथ जो आपकी जो कॉस्टिंग वाला एलिमेंट है उसमें आप फिर उसको उसके अंदर मेरा क्वेश्चन है बल्कि ये इसके अंदर आप पार्ट्स कंज्यूम्ड की तो एक कैटेगरी होती है, एफओएच एफओएच मींस फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड्स को एट्रीब्यूट करने की भी एक तरीका होता है।
जी जी।
लेकिन मैन आवर्स को भी बीच में क्या, मैन आवर कॉस्ट को भी बीच में क्या शामिल किया जाता है?
Why not? You see,
नहीं, ये जो सर, ये जो अर्न वैल्यू है, अर्न वैल्यू के अंदर जो हम यूज कर रहे हैं,
हाँ जी,
ये बजटेड लिखा हुआ है ना सबके
जी
साथ, तो
जी,
ये
exactly.
बजटेड कॉस्ट है कि एक्चुअल कॉस्ट है?
Actual cost अभी I have not started discussing actual cost, but
अच्छा, ठीक है।
you see, there was a rate when you determined the cost. You see, the man hours, even if you are talking about man hours, although I'm not really very fond of talking of man hours because that is, a misnomer kind of a thing.
हाँ, मिसनोमर है सर, बिल्कुल वो डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री में यूज होती है, लेकिन इट्स अ टोटल मिसनोमर।
Yeah, exactly. But even if you are talking about man hours, you say, for example, carpenter man hours. So carpenter will cost you something for an hour, na? So you do have a rate. So if there are 200 man hours, you can multiply that 200 with that rate, and that will be the cost of that resource. And then you say, in this activity, it's not only the man hours actually. There were some materials used, some tools used. So they will also cost something. So an activity is a sum of all these things. It is not only the man hours.
ठीक
So
है,
the
यानी कि इसके अंदर कॉस्ट ऑफ वर्क जो आ रही है, यानी कि लेबर कॉस्ट है, वो भी शामिल है
everything.
इसमें, बिजली पानी का खर्चा भी शामिल है इसमें,
Yes.
एफओएच भी शामिल है।
जी, exactly.
अच्छा,
Everything about that activity, whatever is to be spent on that activity is included into the budgeted cost of work scheduled. So we had to spend not more than this much money on this activity. And actually what we have done is not talking about how much we have spent. The next question is earned value means how much we have done, right? It's not how much we have spent. So whatever we have done, what is the budgeted value of that? How much did we keep in budget for those jobs? If I was supposed to do 3 jobs in 1 quarter or in 1 month, and we did 4 jobs, then naturally we did more jobs. Therefore, the budgeted value of those 4 jobs would be my earned value. Are you with me?
ठीक है सर।
So therefore, if I am performing less than what the PV is, my earned value is lower, then I am underperforming. I am behind schedule. And if my earned value is more than my planned value, that means I am overperforming or I am ahead of schedule. So comparing PV with EV, planned value and earned value, will give me a schedule variance. Schedule variance, how much I am ahead or behind in schedule. It has nothing to do with how much money has been spent. So by comparing the PV and EV, I can find the difference in schedule variance.
So it has nothing to do on the cost on ground.
No, not on ground. The cost in both cases, in planned value and earned value, is the budgeted cost, which was written in the plan.
उसका फिर क्या मतलब है?
किसका?
ये जो एक्चुअल्स लिखी हुई है इसमें, स्लाइड में टर्म लिखी हुई है, एक्चुअल कॉस्ट ऑफ वर्क परफॉर्म, AC.
I have actually not gone till that point as yet.
Okay.
Okay. So if you are clear about PV and EV, so PV is how much job had to be done by this time, and what is the worth of that job, all that work which had to be done. So that is the planned value. Now at that point when we reach how much work we have actually performed and how much is the budgeted worth of that much job. The difference between PV and EV will tell me either I am ahead of schedule or behind the schedule. And that will be calculated in money, not in percentage. not in any other unit. And if we can calculate this in money, then cost is already calculated in money. So that would equate the both things, and I will easily be able to compare them. I can also do it with percentage, both things in percentage. But percentage, though we think that this is a very good scale, everything, when we want to put some authenticity in our talk, we talk in terms of percentage. But I must tell you that percentage is the most inaccurate way of determining anything. Do you agree with me or disagree with me?
100% agree, sir, because at times percentage value of some activity may be 5%, but its cost could be about like 20%. So वो तो बिल्कुल meaningless बात होती है.
Yes, it's completely meaningless, because even how do you determine 5%? You determine the percentage from your point of view. I determine the percentage from my point of view. So if our points of view are different, then probably you are thinking 5%, I am thinking 10%. So two different people can have two different opinions about the percentage of the work done or whatever. Therefore, that is not a very good way of doing it. Yes, I do agree that in various industries, in defense, in construction, they have set up their own thumb rules, their own heuristic. For example, in construction of houses, normally in Pakistan, they say if the foundations are complete, 15% of the building is complete. If the walls are complete, then another, say, 20% is complete. So that rule does apply to the house construction. Even that will not apply to a multi-story building. Even that rule will not apply to IT. That rule will not apply to any other type of engineering or any project management. So that is a domestic rule for construction, and that too of a specific type of construction. Therefore, such like rules and heuristics are of no use, absolutely no use. And we have to have a universal way of measuring the progress of any project in the world. Therefore, this earned value comes into play. So we have done that. Now let us move on to the actual cost, which was your original question. Actual cost, the work which we have performed so far at this point, at the first progress report time, what is the actual money we have spent out of the pocket to do that much job? So let us go back to the example I was giving you. First activity was, I think I should draw it, and that will be much more clearer. Okay, my A activity was worth how much? I said 1000. E activity was 2000. C activity was 1500, and D activity was 1000, and then E and so on. In the first, these are my months. This is my time. So in first month, I was supposed to do A, B, and C. And in fourth month, I was supposed to do D. So what is the planned value till first month? What is the planned
4500
first month? PV
4500
4500.
45
Okay, what is the earned value if we do all the four jobs?
55. If you just 55.
5500. Now let us say the actual cost at this point is 6000. Now this is out of the pocket expense. This has not to be related with a budget. This is out of pocket expense. We have actually spent 6000 rupees to do this much job. The four activities costed us on ground 6000 rupees. So if I can compare PV with EV, then my schedule, this is my schedule variance. If I compare EV with AV, this is my cost variance. So first tell me, what is your schedule variance? What is the difference between PV and EV?
1,000.
1000. And is it less or more? Good or bad?
It's more good, sir. It's good, sir.
We are ahead of schedule, so this is a good one. Therefore, let's put a plus here. So SV is plus 1000. The earned value is 5500, but we have spent 6000. Have we underspent or overspent?
Overspent.
Overspent, which is good or bad?
Bad.
Let us say it is minus. How much?
500.
500. So in schedule variance I am plus 1000, and in cost variance I am minus 500.
500.
Got it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
What should be the formula of schedule variance?
1000 minus 100.
Formula for schedule variance. Devise a formula for schedule variance.
PV minus EV.
Right.
Or
So
rather,
this
minus
is
PV.
EV minus PV. Because if we do PV minus EV, it will be minus 1000.
Minus 1,000. Yes, sir.
So it is EV minus PV. So SV is the formula for schedule variance is earned value minus planned value. Now devise a formula for CV.
SP minus EV.
Yes,
Sorry. EV minus S. That's minus.
EV minus AC.
Actual cost minus earned value.
Right. Okay, agreed. So do you agree with this formula? Do you, can you devise this formula by yourself? Don't have to remember this. Can you devise this formula by yourself?
Yes,
You
sir.
see,
Device करने.
earned value should be more. It should be more than PV, that is good. Earned value should be more than AC, that is good. So earned value which is good should be always the first. Got it?
Oh, got it. सही है, आप जो कह रहे हैं वो समझ आ गई कि earn value, if it is ahead of the earn value is ahead of others, that means it is positive. और अगर वो
Exactly.
negative रह जाती है, मतलब ताकि हमें
Yes.
पता लग जाए when it is negative, it is adverse.
Exactly. This is the point. Atif and Wasif, did you get it?
Yes, sir.
सर एक बेसिक
Yes,
सी
sir, got it.
जी सर.
ये earn value 5500 किधर से बनी है, वो शुरू में समझ नहीं आई मुझे.
सर हुआ ये है कि we had to do 3 jobs. We were supposed to do 3 jobs as per schedule. A, B and C. But we were more efficient. We not only completed A, B and C, we still had time, so we did D also, which was actually to be done next month.
अच्छा ठीक है, लेकिन आपने शो तो उसको सेकंड मंथ में किया हुआ है सर.
जी बिल्कुल किया हुआ है. That मैंने schedule शो किया हुआ है, लेकिन एक्चुअल प्रोग्रेस शो नहीं की मैंने.
अच्छा, अगर आपने डी कर लिया पहले और होना बाद में था, ठीक है.
जी I'll just show the actual progress.
500 हो गई.
Yes.
तो एक्चुअल कॉस्ट जो है वो फिर 6000 कैसे आई?
Actual cost, okay, yeah, that you cannot deduce from here. That is the
अच्छा,
out of pocket expense.
वो आपने मतलब
I've
वहां से
assumed,
इनपुट ली के ठीक है इतनी आई एक्चुअल कॉस्ट.
I've assumed that this is the out of pocket expense. This cannot be.
मतलब है कि हमने जल्दी कर लिया काम लेकिन महंगा कर दिया.
जी exactly, that is the point. So actually those lines would be something like the progress line. Let me change the pen. Like the progress line is something like you can't see it. Okay, something like this is A, and this is B, and this is C, and this is D. This is the actual progress line. So you did those jobs earlier. Okay. So how good it is? Just by spending 500 extra, you have achieved uh, progress of 1000 extra. But still, it is not good. You see, we are overspending. We are overspending. So, is it an alarming situation as yet?
So I think it
No,
is
so
alarming.
far not alarming.
It is not
It
alarming,
is not because time.
It is not alarming.
right? So, if I understand something out of it is, if somebody gives me this progress at the end of 1 month, I would say, well done, you have done the job better, but why are you overspending? Can you control your spending? Maybe you can use a little bit of speed next month, but you should also control your cost. So I am forcing this person not to let loose on cost. He can sacrifice a bit on schedule, but he should not let loose on cost. So that way, that person will have a check next month and he would try to control the cost. Whereas the example I had given you earlier was that we are only running after the schedule and we are not bothered how much we are spending. And ultimately, at the end of the project, we realize we have spent 3 times more money, which is a very bad situation. So, as soon as we start overspending, we should get a warning and we should immediately start controlling it. And ultimately, it will be, corrections applied for schedule and cost continuously throughout the project every month or every reporting period. That way, you will be able to bring your project back on your S curve. So you see, if this is your S curve, this shows all the PVs. Maybe my at the end of 1 month, where do I stand? I had 4500. Say this point was supposed to be 4500. Where I stand, I did 5500. This is my EV. This is my PV. And actually, I have spent 6000. This is the status. So the difference between EV and PV is, EV is above PV. That means it is good. And this difference is 1000. And difference between EV and AC is 500. And EV is lower than AC. Therefore, it is bad. It is minus. So if this continues and I move on to the next month, maybe let me come up with new figures. For PV of next month, let us say it is 12,000. This is a PV of next month. And my earned value drops down to 10,000. And my actual cost is 11,000. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Next month,
And I will
my
report to
PV and AC values are these. My PV was 12,000, my EV was 10,000, and my AC was 11,000. Got it?
yes, sir.
So, what is the situation now?
The situation is that you are working slower but
I
saving
ha-
on cost.
okay. So, what is the value of my PV of sorry, my PV of first
SV.
month is 12K. EV of second month is uh, 10K,
10,000.
10K.
and AC
2K negative.
11K. So my EV, sorry, SV is how much?
Minus 2K.
Minus 2. And CV?
CV is -1. -1.
Despite the warning I had given you the last month, you have not only reduced your performance in scheduling, in schedule performance is reduced, your cost performance is further reduced, right? So this is something to be concerned about. So this time you will get a more stern warning that this is not going well. So you better improve that. So every month you will have a check and balance system. And that's how you are going to bring your project back on track continuously every reporting period. And you most likely you will be completing your project near to the BAC, if not exactly. Got it? Now let's do two more terms. Yes.
So if we are closing 4 times, we say time is money, and we get actually, if we complete our project before time, we also get some benefit from our, you can say, the customer. If it is more than what we have spent on our on what to complete it before time, so we are then in benefit.
Earlier we deliver the deliverable, say 1 month earlier.
Yes, sir.
We are delivering the benefits earlier. We are delivering,
exactly.
And that is definitely we are earning that money in lesser time. You understand that?
In lesser time, perhaps there will be a contract if we complete it before time. The customer will pay us more.
No, why? We are keeping the customer abreast with the progress. We are telling him we are performing better and we will be able to do it earlier. We are forecasting it. We are always giving him the estimate at completion. At every point, every month, I am giving him an estimate at completion, which is a forecast. Estimated completion as far as the money is concerned, as far as the schedule is concerned. We say it is a 12-month project and we are likely to complete it in 11 months. So he knows, customer knows all the time what we are doing.
But if we get delayed on the 13 months, most probably we get a debit note. If we get the debit note, if we complete it before time, certainly we get some benefit for it as well. It happens.
Yeah, of course. Yes, if it is
so if the benefit we get doing it before 1 month,
yes,
and the money we have spent, if it is less than what we get the benefit, so it is good then.
Yes, of course.
We can spend more.
Of course.
Okay.
Right. Okay. This seems good. This seems okay. We understand, but how to calculate PV, EV, and AC? How to calculate the values of SV and CV? And even we can compare the values of previous SVs with the new SVs. Previous month we had, the first month we had plus 1000 SV. Now we have gone down 2000 minus SV. So can we compare these two figures? They will show me a trend. But these figures do not match because the value of PV in the first month was just 4500 and in the second month it was 12,000. So the first SV is relevant to 4500, is related to 4500, whereas the second SV is related to 12,000. So we cannot really make any distinctions. We just can see it is good or bad. Plus is good, minus is bad. We just can say something out of that. Moreover, if I have got 3 projects running and I have got SV and CV value for each project, how can I say which project is best? Maybe let's talk about CV. The CV of first project is minus 1K. the CV of second project is minus 2K, or say 10K, minus 10K. And the third project is 1K. Which is the best project? Minus 1, minus 10, and plus 1.
Plus 1.
Plus 1.
Plus 1. Okay. Okay, forget about plus 1. Between 1K
Okay.
and 10K, minus 1K, minus 10K, which is better?
Minus 1K.
Okay, apparently looks like it is minus 1K, but there are three different projects. We could have made the decision based on plus or minus, but how can we say that first project is is better than second project? We don't know how much is the budget for first project and how much is the budget for second project. Maybe the budget for first project is only 2,000 rupees and we are already going 1,000 down, and the budget for the other project is 100,000 rupees and we are only 10,000 down. So that is 1/5 and this is half. So apparently SV and CV cannot be used for these kinds of comparisons. The only comparison you can make with SV and CV is the minus plus comparison, good or bad, good or bad. That's it. So if you want to conduct the comparison on some other way, like which project is better or what is the situation, so you have to use not this childish kind of plus minus game. You have to use a little complicated method, which is the ratio method. You have to develop a schedule performance index and a cost performance index. And how do you do that? Like you subtracted one value from the other and the difference was your variance. Now let us divide one value from the other, and if both values are same, the answer will be 1. If the upper value is greater, the answer would be more than 1. If the upper value is lower, the answer will be less than 1. So our plus minus problem is resolved. It is now our ratio. Anything more than 1 is good, 1 or more than 1 is good, anything lower than 1 is bad. So that is called SPI, and SPI is equal to, okay, in this case of first month, what should be the answer? How should I take the ratio? Ratio would be between which two figures?
PV and EV.
PV and EV. So what should I keep up and what should I keep down?
PV to be down and EV on the up.
Okay, you mean EV divided by PV. So if EV is more, like in this case, my answer will be more than 1. That is good. You are right in formulating this formula. You deduced it right. So if EV is more, my answer would be more than 1. If SPI becomes 1, that means they are exactly equal, on target, on schedule. And if EV is less, then it will be 0 point something. So anything which starts with a 0 is bad. Anything which is more than 1 is 1 is okay. More than 1 is good. So it is even a better method, and by this method we can not only compare the progress reports of different months together and see which month had been better. We can also compare various projects together. It is not the story of good and bad. This exactly tells me how good or how bad we are in this. Similarly, if I want to create a formula for cost performance index, what should that be? Cost performance index, what should that be?
It should be, sir, EV over AC.
EV over AC. Everybody agrees with it? EV over AC. So if you agree with it, you see, we said EV should be more always. Therefore, we are keeping EV on top. First of all, I believe that the way we have discussed it, you should be able to devise your own formula. And you will never be wrong. It is a better way of understanding this thing. But if you have problem remembering the formulas, devising the formulas, then you can remember it. But the simple rule to remember is in SV and CV always keep EV first. In SPI and CPI always keep EVA on top. Got it?
Got it, sir.
So whether you remember it or you devise it, I have no problem. But I would rather prefer that you should be able to use some common sense and be able to devise this formula on your own anytime. Okay, if that is okay, I will move ahead.
That means that we are in a way with respect to schedule variance, we are 22% ahead of the schedule.
Actually, I did not want to talk about percentages because I don't like percentages. But yes, I will tell you how to find the percentage. Let me reach that point. So, okay, we are clear about PV, EV and AC. The other name of PV is BCWS, that is budgeted cost of work scheduled. Other name of EV is BCWP, budgeted cost of work performed. Other name of AC is ACWP, actual cost of work performed. And if you just want to compare these three new names, these are not new names, they're old names. You see, in the schedule first two, the BC is constant. That means what is varying? What is varying is work. Work is varying from schedule to perform. Therefore, the difference between these two would be schedule variance. If you compare the other two, you see WP is constant and the cost is varying. Therefore, the difference between these two would be the cost variance. This is another way of remembering what to compare. Are you okay with it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There is yet another term which is called EAC. BAC we understand. This is the highest point of PV on S curve. But you see, our SV and CV are SPI and CPI are not going to be exactly one all the time. Therefore, whenever the value of CPI fluctuates from 1 to plus or minus side, what will happen? Our estimate, our forecasting will change. We will have now a new estimate at completion basing on the progress so far. This is called estimate at completion, and I'll tell you how to calculate this formula. We talked about SV, CV, we talked about SPI and CPI. There is one other thing which is called VAC. This is variance at completion. This is the difference between BAC and EAC. BAC and EAC. What we should have done and what we actually are likely to do. So subtract EAC from BAC. BAC minus EAC is equal to VAC. So VAC is equal to BAC minus EAC. So if BAC is more, then our estimated completion is lower. That is a good thing. We are likely to complete earlier. If our EAC is more, then we are consuming more time. Got it?
Got it, sir.
Okay, this was the crux of the thing. If you have really understood this, the subsequent slides will just show you the formulas and definitions for all these things, but I don't think we need to go into any further detail into that. This is CV, SV, all those things. This is the formula and definition for SPI. This is for CPI. And I hope you don't have to, go through all this. You understand this all. And this is a diagram which shows exactly how I have explained to you how these lines are created. This is the one line is permanent. The PV line is permanent because this was designed when we were planning. But the other two lines are being developed as we are performing the project. So all the ACs and EVs are being plotted here, and new lines are generated. And the difference at any point in time, the difference between EV and PV, this is the schedule variance. And difference between EV and AC, this is cost variance. From here to here is the cost variance. This is my budget at completion, and if I forecast this line, actually, the cost will, if I project the cost, that would be reaching at EAC. So far, what we have spent is AC. Actual cost at this point is AC of today, cumulative value of AC. So far, we have spent this much money. We have actually on ground spent AC. How much more do you need to spend to reach EAC? That would be the money which we need to spend more till reaching EAC is called ETC. ETC is estimate to complete the remaining work. Estimate to complete the remaining work. And EAC is estimate at completion. Estimate at completion. Do you understand this graph?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me give you some formula for calculating the EAC and ETC. Just a minute. Okay, right. It's a little tricky, but you will understand it. What was the value of PV? Sorry, yeah, right. We'll write those values down again. First month, 1000. Sorry, PV was 45. 4500. EV was 5500, and AC was 6000. And my let us calculate the SPI and CPI. 5500 divided by 4500. What is the SPI? 55 divided by 45.
1.22.
1.22, yes. 22.
1.22. Right. And what is the value of CPI? 55 divided by 6000. That would be 0. Yes? 91.
91, sir.
916.
Right. Let's say 92. Okay, this is my CPI and SPI. Forget about SPI. Let's only talk about cost here. If we are, for every $1 I have spent so far, I have actually achieved only worth 0.92. That's what it means. So far, for every $1 I spent, I actually achieved only 0.92. So what is the likelihood of completing this project on the cost we have established? So let us assume the budget at completion is uh, 500,000. 500.